Hey everybody, this is Sully, and this week's been really interesting. I put out how to do EmuFlight 2. Or beta 2.20 beta, and then suddenly RPM filtering became free with BLHeli S, and I learned that with JESC you can use 48 kilohertz ESC firmware to extend your micro runtime by up to about 30%. But if you have one of the smaller quads, like say something with 1103, 1102, all the way down to 0602 motors or 0603 motors, there is JESC firmware that I thought you had to pay for, but actually you don't. And you use the 48 kilohertz version and you can extend your flight times. And the smaller the motor, the better it works. And several reasons for it, but mostly it's mechanics on how brushless motors work with on-off, on-off, and the higher resolution of PWM, at least as I understand it. Again, not an expert, but have shown this does work and it extends your flight time. So I was going to show you how to do JESC firmware on a Larva X100 and how to do RPM filtering, the new firmware that's out, that I did a live walkthrough also on the Larva X100, as long as you have Betaflight 4.1 flashed. Yeah, so that's a lot of uhs. Yeah, I might cut a lot of that out. But first off, we're going to go over to the GitHub page for JESC. This is the easiest one to do, so I'm going to do it first. It's JESC Configurator, and you're going to select whichever configurator you want. It's a zip file, so you just download that, and you're going to pop it into a folder, which is over here, and run. This will be the easiest setup. Now, one good thing, and you'll notice I have props on for this, and you should never do that, but I am also powering this off of the USB, so there's no way the motors will spin up for me, and that's okay. But we're going to just plug it in. Since it's one of those all-in-one Whoop style boards, when you are flashing ESCs, normally you have to plug in a battery, but with those all-in-one Whoop boards, you actually don't. And with JESC here, you're just going to do read setup after you connect, and it's going to go through reading. You're going to hit the do flash all. I've done this, but you have a couple of choices here. You'll want to choose 48 kilohertz PWM early access, and if you want to try an experimental, there's a no damping, which is they're hoping that will extend. I'm actually trying this one now because I can tell you the 48 kilohertz PWM does get you, for something in an 1103 style motor, it gets you about 10 or 15% more battery life. I'm about to flash my UK65, and that's supposed to get up to 30%, and it has 0602 motors. So if you have the Mobula 7 and Mobula 6, basically the smaller motors, the more it's supposed to help. So all you're going to do is click in the JESC 2.2, and if you read the note, it says your ESCs are unlicensed, and that means you can't use the RPM filter, but you can take advantage of this 48 kilohertz PWM. Now if you want to do RPM filtering, you just have to license, and you can use this one ESC firmware for both RPM and the 48 kilohertz. Just hit flash. I'm not going to do it, but you hit flash and it will pop on, and you'll see JESC F40 2.2 unlicensed, and it'll go through. And that is actually all you have to do. So if you want to see if it will extend your flight time, literally just flash firmware. You want to do flash all, try one, see how you like it, try the other, see how you like it, compare it with the 24 kilohertz. There's no change on that you need to do after you flash the ESC, so that is it. Now I am going to show you how to enable RPM filtering on this one, and that's actually very easy as well. You will want your standard BLHeli suite, BLHeli Configurator. It's the same style. JESC just built off BLHeli. So we're going to go into RPM filtering now. if you want to do that. And yeah, it's actually a lot easier than I thought it was. Who knew? You flash in here, you're going to see what your ESC is. You want to take note of that. I have the FH40. You go to this page that is Jazz Mavericks BLHeli page, and go back one more. You're going to pick 1674. If 1675 comes out, they're working on it right now. It had a bug in it whenever I was live flashing this. 1675 didn't work, but they're working on it. I'm pretty sure it will work, and they may actually incorporate the 48 kilohertz in there as well. But you're going to go into hex file 1674 and pick out your particular version, which mine is the FH40. You want to click on it to get to this raw. You right click on that, save link as, and there's my FH40 Rev 1674. Save. I override, doesn't matter. Go back into here, flash all, click. You're not going to do this select version, you just select file manually, pick your FH40, open, and it will immediately start to flash. The exact same as what happens in JESC, only this is for RPM filtering. So right now for free, you can't do RPM filtering and ESCs on BLHeli S, but or RPM filtering and 48 kilohertz on BLHeli S for free. You can do one or the other. Since this quad flies really well, I'm going to switch back over and do the 48 kilohertz, but I just want to show you how to do it very quickly, how to do your RPM filtering, because it's a very easy setup as well. It's really cool. Yeah, like I said, take your props off. That is number one. Take your props off. This is a tiny quad, and I'm running it off of USB, so it doesn't really matter as much. The only reason this works without plugging a battery in again is because it's that all-in-one Whoop board. So once it's flashed, you'll see FH40 1674, and I'm flashed. Going to disconnect here, hop over to Betaflight, connect. We're going to go over to ports, or I'm sorry, to configuration. You have to be on Betaflight 4.1 or above. You can do it on Betaflight 4.0, but it's just so bad. 4.1 is great. 4.1.1 is great. 4.0, not great, so I don't recommend it. Your first set, you're going to go configuration and Dshot 300. And you'll notice I'm using the Crazy Bee F4S, but Dshot 300. And if you look, my CPU load is already at 49-50%, and that's because I'm 8K at Dshot 600 without RPM filtering. So yeah, you have to drop this Dshot 300. You want to turn on bidirectional Dshot, and you would put in your motor poles. Mine is 12. Standard 22 size is actually around 14, but most of the ones I fly are 12 magnets. Then you will go over here, and it's 4K. You don't want any more than that. Save and reboot. Pop back in. Connect. I didn't turn on auto connect. Okay. So now bidirectional is on, 4K, we're good. Now we're going to PID tuning, filter settings. You want that to stay at 3 and 100. Dynamic notch, now you can move it down to low. You want 0 width percentage, 290. Those come off of Bardwell's numbers, and this will help with your harmonics, but you do want to leave your gyro RPM at 3 and 100. You can probably turn filtering up 2 on this, and you just keep turning higher as you go up. Save. Jump over to motors, but you'll notice here you have R and E. It's RPM and your error rate, and I have no battery plugged in, so it's not giving me anything, and that's fine. Okay, so you're going to go to the motor tab and make sure your error rate is 0 with the battery in and your RPM's nothing. Click I understand the risks, and you power up, and there we go. And it's going to read. You'll want to go through the range just to see, but as long as you're getting 0% error, you should be good to go. We're going to jump down to tasks, and this is where you want to see, this is where it's very important. You run the command tasks, and you'll see 4000 for your gyro PID. You're looking at this line right here, gyro PID. It's already at 50%, so that definitely means you do not want to go over Dshot 300 and 4K. Don't even, yeah, most CPUs, unless you're F7, won't do 8K and Dshot. And what I'm doing is just running the task command repeatedly and making sure that that gyro PID is within 1% of 4000, since we have a 4K PID loop, and that will ensure that you have a good flight. Now, a funny thing is that I had a quad that when I ran tasks off of USB power, it went down to 3800, 3400, 3200, and it turns out that that quad actually requires having a battery plugged in for the CPU to work. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you notice that you're getting a high fluctuation, before you start to panic like I did, because I was getting anywhere from 3400 to 3920, and then every now and then 4000, and it was just simply because I didn't have a battery plugged in. But that is going to do it, and that is it for RPM filtering. It's very simple. It was very easy to do, and once you get it dialed in, you can just use the sliders and you're good to go. Hopefully the hex file 16.75 might contain the 48K, but if not, and you want to try 48K on your micros, see, I found that the micros, I would prefer the longer flight time to RPM filtering. I don't really have a problem tuning micros, but I do have a problem with the very, very short flight times. So 48K, I'm looking forward to it. RPM filtering, I love it on like the 3 inches and on the 2.5 inch. Those RPM filtering helps out a lot. And other than that, it's free. But don't forget, there are people who dedicate time. So definitely consider giving to JESC so that you can support that work that's going on, because that's a lot of work. So licensing the software, the firmware, is much cheaper than buying 32-bit ESCs, especially in this micro quad range. Like, holy cow, can't believe they have RPM filtering in the little 3-inch and honestly all the way down to the micro range. That is phenomenal. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging in. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, do all that good stuff, and we will talk to you later.